This is not your mother's middle-aged. No longer is waking up each day, living the wash, rinse, and repeat cycle acceptable. We have the life lessons, the relationships, the wins, and the losses with which to navigate to our highest self, without hesitation and without fear leading the way. We have been there and done that, and so we have so much to offer the world and each other. So join me on this journey, speaking to ordinary women doing extraordinary things for new insights, new ideas, new medical breakthroughs, and new life lessons. You will be inspired to find your best life here and now. My name is Wendy Charles Maguire, and this is your Second Wind podcast. Today on Second Wind, I have Heidi Milton of Operation Organization by Heidi. So when you think of organization, I don't know, I always thought somebody just came in and helped, organize your pantry or your drawers or anything like that. Heidi is completely different, and that's why I'm bringing her to you. First of all, she's a mother of two and a blended household of 4 children. And she was faced with a surprise divorce that kind of forced her into making decisions, and honing in on her God-given talent really is what we're looking at today. Organization with Heidi is not just cleaning out that drawer or that pantry or that closet. She's empathically and empathically someone who has the ability to get to the root of why things are cluttered to begin with. She becomes a partner with you and uncovers the value of the energy of every aspect of your life, and simply by starting with your clutter. So I'm excited to share your story with everyone. Heidi, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here and appreciate the invitation.
Absolutely. So let's go with how you started and stumbled upon organization entrepreneurship to begin with.
Sure. So I started with a college degree, much to my parents' urging. Back in the day of, early adulthood, had I had my complete freedom, I would have pursued becoming an actress. But at the urging of my parents, I did get a degree in mass communications with an emphasis in electronic media. And, as time went on, I was getting closer and closer to graduation. The urging for entertainment wasn't quite as strong, but I wasn't sure what that would mean for me professionally upon graduation. So I got really intentional, and I did know I wanted to be happy with whatever I chose to do and wanted to have meaning and value in it. So I did some investigative reading. One of the best books I read was Why You Can't Be Anything You Want to Be, but You'll Love Being Who God Designed You to Be. And through reading that, I was able to identify what he prescribes to be your map or your motivated abilities patterns. And I picked up on, what motivated me, what I was naturally gifted and talented at, that I could get lost doing and enjoy it. And, the idea is you find what that is. And if you can translate it into, your profession or have that steer you, then, you're going to get that fulfillment, that excitement of what you're spending your time on. And that definitely proved to be true. And it was easy to see, like I was just watching the Home and Garden Network several years later as a young adult. I had been in the professional industry for a while, and I was watching, I think it was Mission Organization. And I'm like, wait, this is a thing? That lines up all, the dots of my map. And so, then that started the catalyst of just investigating, okay, is this just made for TV? Is this just entertainment? And, through research, I did find out it was a viable, service that one could offer and provide. And that was back in 1999, early 2000s. And so the industry was still very young then, and it's even changed a lot since then. But long story short, it's just a combination of identifying who am I, what gets me going, and then, matching it with something when I just observed it, in the everyday.
Right. And I think it did start in the early 2000s, that whole idea of being organized. And then you had the stores that popped up with all the stuff to get you organized.
That's right.
So Heidi, tell me a little bit Yeah, tell us a little bit about who you were growing up, because obviously you still had to do what a lot of us second winders had to do, which is you're expected to go to college, you're
Mhm.
expected to get married, you're supposed to have the children, stay home
Mhm.
with your children if you can. Um, and you had a little bit of that push and pull. So tell us a little bit about who Heidi is.
Sure, sure. So I grew up in a very small town in central Iowa. I was an only child, and both of my parents also have entrepreneurial, experience. My mother was a private preschool. She operated that out of our home and was very successful. My dad worked for the state of Iowa, and he additionally had a private contracting business. So, I grew up around my folks, having a lifestyle like that. And I was just a little entrepreneur from the beginning. Like I have very vivid memories of peddling something around my neighborhood, whether it was lemonade or
Oh,
interviewing
really?
neighbors and, then selling a newsletter, that I had put together from whatever they had to say.
Oh my God.
And I had babysitting business, pet sitting business. I was always coming up with some idea of, what could I do to earn some money. I wasn't necessarily driven extraordinarily by money. I just wanted to be creative with my time. And I was also always a performer. Like when I was growing up with my cousins, we were always, I was the one leading the charge of let's do this little show. This will be fun. When friends would come over, I'm like, okay, we're gonna get our little boom box and we're gonna do a pretend radio show or we're gonna do a pretend cooking show or whatever. So those were always constants, spending my time in a productive or creative way, I guess. Um, and
Okay.
then, yeah, I grew up an only child, and was a joiner to the core. Like I was always looking for new things to explore and try and do. So I did a little bit of music. I did a little bit of just different high school clubs, just like, what's this about? What's photography about? What's Future Farmers of America about? What's this about? And
Oh,
so
wow. Yeah.
natural curiosity, or, sometimes it was driven by the people that were in the groups too, because I'm pretty relational. And so if someone that I enjoyed and
Mhm.
wanted to be around was interested in something, like, sure, I'll join you. You'll see what that's going on there. And also very athletic, did like cross country, basketball, track. So I liked to be active. That's always been a constant. So yeah, when it came time to figure out what I wanted to do beyond childhood, which I loved, and had lots of great experiences, I did know I wanted to leave my small town. I enjoyed it, appreciated it for what
Mhm.
it was, but that curiosity of what's next, what else is possible, was remaining constant too. And I didn't know exactly where I would land, but I did know I wanted to expand, beyond where I was. And so that was, that
Mhm.
would remain to be discovered how that would go into place. But yeah, does that answer your question a bit?
Yes, yes, it does. So take us through, so you went to college, you didn't do acting like you had wanted to,
Mhm.
and you went to college, and then what?
So went to college and did all of the everything I could while I was there, and happened to meet my first husband while I was in college as well. And that kind of did make a steering of my goals, because I was becoming aligned in what his passions and what was exciting to him for his future.
Mhm.
And so, we got married right out of college, after I graduated college. And, we were in
Mhm.
alignment of what we wanted to do as far as family, as far as, his professional goals and aspirations at the time. And so we
Mhm.
spent 2 years remaining in the Iowa area, where he did just a bit of work there, and then moved on to his, goals from that point. And there was more schooling involved, and so we moved to a couple different states for him to accomplish a couple different degrees. And then along that time period is where I had that opportunity to be more investigative of, okay, well, I'm going to be like supporting in whatever role I can, you know um, financially speaking, in different jobs wherever we landed. And I wanted to be,
Mhm.
thinking about, well, if I'm doing this now, I can be satisfied and happy if I know what I can be planning for in the future. And so that's when I came upon that book. And
Mm.
then I started to get really excited about, okay, well, when this season of life is, kind of buttoned up, then I'll be ready to kind of spring up when it's the right time. Mm-hmm.
That was smart because I find that a lot of second winders, you think about things, but you don't actually think outside of the box that, oh, I'm going to go do this.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty forward thinking of you
Yes.
to move into that direction.
Mm-hmm.
So, off you go. Then what?
So off we
Then
go.
what happens?
Yes. So off we go. We've catapult into life, and we're adding children. In 2000, we were married in 2000. I had a first child by 2005, second child by 2009, and had lived in mm, Arkansas. No, we lived in Denver, then we lived in Arkansas, then we lived in Minnesota. And it was between Arkansas and Minnesota when I was able to launch the business, like officially, because my children's father was finishing his last degree, which is a PhD. So that is a big endeavor. His dissertation and defense is
Right.
involved, and with two small children, there's a lot to manage. And so I would purposely waited until
Mhm.
that was all finished. But meanwhile, behind the scenes, I was working on a website, I was working on writing blogs and articles, so I would have some credibility to what I was trying to be saying I wanted to offer. And I also had the benefit of, meeting another organizer in the industry, a friend of mine. Her mother-in-law was in the industry. Her name is Ellen DeLapp, and she's a wonderful, giving individual that just is, marvelous at her work and just loves to encourage and empower others. And so, very grateful to her for, allowing me to talk to her every now and then. And she gave me recommendations on what I could do to kind of get my feet into the industry. And so when I was living in Minnesota,
Mhm.
and my boys were more occupied either in school or preschool or a combination of childcare, getting as creative as I could, I started doing some public
Right.
speaking. I did public speaking at like area MOPS groups, like mothers of preschoolers, and
Mhm.
just shared some ideas. I had different themes that I shared. Like one was home organizing 101, one was all about paper clutter, one was all about toys, how to handle that, all those kinds of things. And that really worked well because, I was already in that season of life. I was easy to relate to those moms. And, they could see I was just a mom just like them. I'm not just going to be this pushy, tell you what to do. And I'm not, I feel like I was an expert, but I'm not, but it would be fun to try to work on this
Right.
with me. That was my hope. And
Right.
that did translate well. And I did get a lot of traction doing it that way. And so that was a really good way to launch the business and made some really good contacts. And then referrals flowed from there. Then we had the opportunity to move to Georgia because of a job offer for my first husband. And I'm like, well, I moved a business once, I can do it again, And so I felt
Okay.
confident, like, we can do this. Sure. My adventurous spirit. I'm like, yeah, if it's good for you, it's good for us and we'll make it work. And children were, the youngest was getting ready to go into kindergarten at that time, and the eldest was he's 3 years older, so they're both school age. I'm like, all right, I'm going to be able to give this laser focus. And so that was just becoming life, and I was exciting. He was my husband at the time was working full time and not in school anymore, not juggling all this stuff. The kids were in school, I'm focusing on this. And we were tooling along. And then life is always difficult, there's always challenges that come up. And you muscle through them, you try to figure it out. But then, one day it became clear that I was going to be faced with the end of that life. And it was a
Mm.
surprise. There was different circumstances that happened. Some friends, you know, were alongside us for the journey, thankfully, that were, trying to encourage, trying to promote, staying together. And that was my hope. But long story short, my husband at the time just said, I don't want to be married anymore. And, um,
Mm,
I think everyone goes through times in their marriage where they wonder, are we going to make it? Is it going to be okay? But I always felt
right.
like, yes, of course it will. Yes, of course it will. But in this particular time, it was pretty clear, like, no, with all these other circumstances and, what I'm seeing now, this is definitely different. And it was like I had to start
Mm,
immediately thinking more towards acceptance of this is what's happening versus hope. Okay, what can we do? Because, it takes two people.
right.
And if both people are not invested for the same goal, then, it's not going to move forward.
Not
And
gonna
so that
get
was
there.
definitely,
You're just
yeah,
not gonna
that
get
was,
there.
yeah, definitely a pivotal time, because the whole reason we were in Georgia was because of the job, that he had taken. And, now it's just like, well, I'm here. I'm happy to be here. I was in Peachtree City at the time. It was lovely, wonderful community, awesome people, fabulous schools, the whole nine. Anyone who's been there or lives there would say the same. And, it's just a
Mhm.
matter of, well, does it make sense for me to stay here? Number one, does it make sense for me to continue doing this business that I've been doing under these circumstances versus what the circumstances were when I started? Like all of these thoughts, are swirling at the same time, but you're still having to manage life as well.
So
Um,
Heidi, I mean, I think that in that position, I definitely, if I had been in that position and I was toying around with a career of sorts, and then my husband who had a career that I could count on an extra
mhm,
income, so all the pressure wasn't on me,
right.
and then all of a sudden that was disrupted.
Yes.
I don't know, it's hard to say
Hmm.
how you pick up and move on from that.
Hmm.
So how'd you do it?
So I again went into very, introspective mode, and that, already being in a heightened emotional state, that was not very productive. And, you go
Okay.
to friends and family first, you're like, what do you think? But they're all wanting to support you, and so it's hard for them to be objective, like they just want you to be happy.
Mhm,
And so it's hard to be able to rely on the advice they're giving you because they just see you're hurting, they see you're down, and what's going to fix that
mhm.
the fastest. And
The
so I was
fastest, yeah.
getting conflicting information, and like while I appreciated everything, I still feel like, okay, I need some additional support here. And so I did seek the additional support through a counselor and also coach, which was a fantastic combination. I worked with Connie Jones there in Peachtree City, and I just went to her, just saying like I'm at this life transition, and I want to be as healthy and strong as I can through it, and I want to make good sound decisions, and I'm doing it differently. Before it was with another person in mind, and now
Mhm.
it's just me, but I still have these children, and I just need
Right.
to sort this out, and so she was marvelous. She was able to speak to both the emotional, like turmoil, as well as, business. Would this make sense given my temperament, my, who I am as a person, very security based, just as you said, that was definitely on my mind. Like, well, I was doing this business
Yeah.
under these circumstances. Can I do it under another? I don't know. Um,
And I do it on my own. Right.
mhm,
Right. Yeah.
yep.
Scary.
Hmm. Yeah. Oh, very
Real life
scary.
scary stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. So so she helps you, you have a coach, so you get excited about it? Is that what happened?
Yeah,
Were you
like
like,
I get
"Okay, I got
excited
this."
about it. I also had other opportunities that gave me a little bit more security to maintain it. I did work
Right.
with another person came into the picture that I had been working with before, like on an organizing basis and professional basis. And she's like, hey, I see your skills and abilities could really benefit my business. And I want to support you in this season of life. And if you still want to maintain your business, I will cheer you on with that. And can we work together? And can we find a way that you can do both? And I did. and it was fantastic. And so I had just
Isn't
a
that
little bit
funny how
of
people just show up when we need them, right?
exactly,
I'm sorry. When
exactly.
people show up when we need
Mhm.
them, it's crazy as long as we're open to seeing that
Yep.
and
Yep.
hearing it.
Yep. So I did a combination of my business, and I did project management with Dirt One X, and Ellie White Stevens there, also in the Sharpsburg, Fayette County area, and it worked great. She was able to, plan her time that she would utilize my abilities to help, push her where she wanted to go, and she's gave me all the freedom, to do the same. She was very respectful of what my goals and needs were, and very invested in, wanting to see my new normal thrive. And so, yeah, people made a huge impact, that were, partnering with me at that time.
And so you were
Mhm.
able eventually to just get into organization with
Yes,
Heidi
yes, yes.
because
Yes.
your business grew.
Yes, because the business grew, and
So
then,
tell
life eventually, life doesn't always stay down, so there's always going to be opportunities that go. And one of the best things that happened after, starting that work with her is I met someone new, and we got married in 2020. So that definitely stabilized things in a completely new and different way. And even though life in 2020 was crazy, in the world, it was still, very stabilized, in our universe, because, I had a new partner, in life as well. So that made a big difference.
That's so amazing. So now let's jump in to your skills and
Hmm.
what you offer people because it's not just decluttering a drawer, as we said in
Hmm.
the beginning.
Hmm. Hmm.
Tell us about what makes you and what you do different and all those great takeaways that we talked about that are
Sure.
so important when you get down to it.
Yes. Well, I mean, everyone has different motivations and circumstances that, cause them to reach out to me. And honestly, at the end of the day, everyone's just looking for a little bit more peace. Everyone's looking for a little bit more ease and comfort. They want to
Mhm,
feel like things
mhm,
are not
mhm,
hard. And particularly when you're in your home, that's where you go to rest. That's where you go to recharge. That's where you go to kind of
mhm,
take cover from the world. So if things in
mhm,
your home are not in order, or not, yeah, just kind of befuddled, then things in that will affect things in life. And some folks, they have like a really big life circumstance, and that's what brings them, to a big stage of, of being under clutter. Like maybe they're all, I've always been organized. I hear that a lot, but then dot dot dot. But then I
this
got
happened.
but then I
Yeah.
had motivation. But then we moved. But then we had a baby, and so then
Mhm,
it's just like, oh, well, I'm not used to how do I pivot in that? Or, there are folks that,
mhm,
recognize, wow, I go to visit, Susie Q, and her house looks amazing and it feels so good to visit there. Why can't I do that? And so in there, it's just more
mhm,
of a mechanical, they didn't learn. It wasn't a life skill that was passed down or absorbed or didn't have the opportunity. And so they recognize,
mhm.
wow, it makes me feel good. I see that it makes life better when things are that way. What's the what's stopping me from having that too? I want that. And so there's always a similar desire for people that they want it. And so, my approach is pretty similar with how I operate and try to get people there. But, there's always something that is like an aha, that we figure out.
Oh,
It isn't like, I'm not looking to find it, but, they kind of, it's just uncovered. It's just kind of revealed, like, oh, I wouldn't have known this. And, it's kind of like I tie a lot of what I do, like someone tries to ask, what is a professional organizer? And I say, well, for me, there's different ways of
mhm,
working with organizers. And at least for me, I relate more to like a personal trainer, but a personal trainer for your stuff. and also like a stuff like almost like a stuff whisperer, like like there's horse whisperers to help them calm
Yeah.
down and figure
Yeah.
out, why are you upset, it's okay. So I'm kind of combination coach, combination whisperer, like, we're going to get there, I'm going to help you get to where you want to go, but along the way, like, okay, what's really bothering you? Because our emotions are also tied to our environment. It's like a chicken or the egg, which comes first. It can vary. Like if you have like a life circumstance, like this is a really messy circumstance and it's going to translate into your home. Or alternatively, if
Mm.
if your home is out of order, then that's going to be screaming at you every time you're there, and you're mentally going to be stunted, and it's going to translate into messiness in other areas. So they're very interconnected, and so until people really start being intentional about looking at their environment and how they interact with it, and matching it with how they're living, that's when the aha moment comes. It's like, okay, well, which is it? Is it more internal clutter that's bringing the external, or is it the external that is affecting the internal?
Mm.
Mhm.
And you said ever since you were little, you have always had the ability to be empathic and
Yes.
and kind of read people. So when
Yes.
you're sitting with someone in a consultation, what
Hmm.
what happens like in a typical consultation if somebody like me says, "Okay, come on over. I
Hmm.
can't figure this out. This is a mess. And
Hmm.
I just think I'm having you over to do all this stuff for
Right.
me. Let's be honest. I just want to pay you, have it
Hmm.
done, and call
Hmm.
it a day. Everything's
Yeah.
organized. Great. And then if it gets unorganized, I'll just call you again." So you come and you sit down, and what happens?
Well, I always start with, people are sometimes are apologetic. Oh, I'm so sorry. I should have cleaned up a little, but I figured maybe I shouldn't. I'm like, that's true. I do want to see it in its natural state. It's like when you're going to,
Right.
the dentist or the doctor's office, you're like grooming more than you normally would. But,
I'll
you
floss
know,
before I go. Yeah.
yes.
Hmm.
So I have that experience, and at the end of the day, we're all just people. We all just want to feel good in our own skin, and so I really always try to make an effort to notice something positive, because they're bringing me in because they feel like there's something negative. And so I always want them to feel like empowered and good. And so whether it's something about, their home or their family or themselves, I make it my goal with that first meeting, like, oh, let's find something good here, so I'm not just there to talk about your problem. Like, okay, how's your day going? How are you feeling today? What was the best part today? Or, wow, I really love that paint color. I would have, never been brave enough, but you really pulled it off. So I'm ignoring the obvious clutter in the room, but we're finding there's good things to be, acknowledged as well. So I try to, be realistic about why I'm there, but also be kind of like a positive presence, because you need that positive energy if you're going to be undertaking something that feels challenging, you know? And so
Right.
you try to draw that out as much as possible. And, the ultimate goal is to achieve something that they want, that being organized. But the path to getting there is going to be different for different people. And so I try to,
Mm.
mirror what they're putting out. Some are very hard charging, focused, driven, like, okay, yes, let's do this. Some are just a little bit more slow and methodical. I'm like, I can roll with that. That's fine. And I had one client and she was retired and she had a goal and she wanted to do it, but she also just wanted to sit on her porch and talk to me. I'm like, okay, we can do that. And so she's like, let's set a timer and we'll work really hard for, half the time. And then can we just go sit on my porch? I just enjoy your company. And I'm like, we can do that, sure.
Oh,
And so it's just
I
like
love
trying to
that.
be, the whatever their goal is and what's going to help them get to that goal, I'm willing to do, and so I'm not going to
Mhm.
be this, it's not a cookie cutter experience. Like the way I do it is similar, of as it deals with the things and the stuff, but how I relate to each client is
Mhm.
completely personalized, and I've got some clients that are just more, you know, in their head and and in their heart. And so sometimes I see like, okay, and they acknowledge, I'm really having a hard time. I really want to keep working on this. I'm like, do you need a mental declutter first? Yes. I'm like, okay, let's just, what are some things that are mentally taxing on you, and just getting that out and getting that out of the way. And okay, now on to what we need to do. And, so some people, like I have some ongoing clients, like I have project-based clients that it's just like, oh, we're going to do this pantry and I feel great. We're going to take care of my filing. This is fantastic. Awesome. And I do have some clients where I meet with on more of a regular basis. And it's not because they're chronically
Mm,
disorganized. It's because they desire that organized functionality, or there's like a lot of changes going on in their life and there's lots to manage, and they're still trying to achieve different things as it relates to their home through that. And so I'm meeting with them on a regular basis. So that's when some of
oh, that
more
makes
of those
sense.
conversations come up. Like, okay, let's do the
Mhm,
mental download. Okay, now we can see through the cobwebs, of your mental clutter. Now we can
mhm.
focus on the physical clutter, if that makes sense.
Well, let me ask you a question
Mhm.
then.
Sure.
So, when I go and visit my mother in New Jersey, she hoards things, food and books and DVDs and
Hmm.
clothing and
Yeah.
shoes and dirty tissues. That's a thing with the
Mm.
older late, like they
Yeah.
stuff them. Okay.
Yes.
Anyway,
Yes.
anyhow, so I leave there thinking to myself, someday I'm going to have to deal with all of that.
Yeah.
It's somehow subconsciously in my head, right? So then
Right.
I get home and I get to my house and I go, oh, I don't want to do that to my children. And then I
Hmm.
put all this pressure on myself saying, okay, I got to go through all my clothes. I got to go through everything. I got to figure out all the paperwork and all this stuff. And then it gets overwhelming and then it doesn't get done. What would you say in that situation of, I don't want to set my kids up for failure like I'm
Hmm.
seeing happen to me.
Hmm.
What kind of advice would you give someone like that? Say
Um,
me.
yeah. So if I want to answer the question you're asking. So are you asking about how to help kids learn how to have a good lifestyle, or how to,
I guess
um,
I guess it would be, how do I get rid of the anxiety from
okay.
seeing so much stuff and
Okay.
then translating that into my own world?
Yeah.
And how do we begin,
Right.
you
Well, I
know?
think it comes down to, first having the mindset, like, yes, you recognize this is something you want. And so, the difference between you
Mhm.
and your mom is she doesn't want it, you do. And so that's a really good starting point.
Mm.
You have to want it, you have to have the desire, you have to have the perceived value. And so once you get, your mind, like I'm getting ready, like I have little notes of things I want to share as they come to me, like in blogs or social media, whatever. And one thing that I'm going to be sharing and touching on soon is, what I'm going to say is the most important tool to get organized is your mind. There's tons of products you can
Mm.
go and get, and different, things you can try, but you have to first start with the mindset of, I want to, and this is why. Because no matter how many baskets you have, you have to know
Yeah,
why you want to keep managing what you're putting inside there, right? And so you start with the
right.
mindset, and once you have the mindset, this is important, this is why it's important, then, if something is a priority to you, you're going to give it the time that it needs. And so then you build in
Mm.
structured systems to maintain those things, and so it always goes back to, this is important, this is important, this is important in your mind. And then because it's important, you're going to give it time, because
Okay.
whatever we value, we're going to give our time to. And at the end of the day, when we're managing our stuff, it's taking time. And so it's setting up
Mhm.
time in your day, time in your mind and energy, to put systems and habits into place to bring the
Right.
order to what you're wanting. And those systems and
Gotcha.
habits can vary. There's many different ways you can manage laundry, for example. There's many different ways you can manage cleaning. There's many different ways you can manage just, keeping things in a general tidy order. It's just putting in the time and the energy to figure out, well, what's going to make sense for the season I'm in right now. And, for when you're graduating high school and going into college, there's transitions. There's a transition in your 20s, then there's a different in your 30s, 40s. So like every generation, there's probably going to be a little bit of a friction and a reset of, well, what needs to be different in this season.
Okay. Yes.
Mhm.
In our second wind, for example.
Exactly.
Good
Yep.
answer. So you help, to me, it sounds like you would help me figure out what priorities I have that I can maintain
Right.
in order to have the time to do the things that I want and like kind of show that to me. Like
Yes.
if you want to lose weight and you're really determined to do it, you're gonna make time to go to the gym or
Hmm.
go to the Weight Watchers or whatever it is you want to
Right.
do. Same idea.
Yes.
That is awesome. You have an example, I know you have lots, but
Hmm.
one that comes to mind of someone that you went and helped and it transformed their life.
Hmm. Yes, and yes, as just as you said, there are several. Trying to think.
You told me
So I
about
haven't.
a single mom who's
Yeah,
living
yeah.
in her
I'll talk about her.
parents'.
Yeah, I haven't talked to her in a while, so I'm just gonna imagine she's wildly successful still. I think she is. But
Yep.
and so now I'm going to be reaching out to her and be like, I thought about you today. Anyhow, so yes, I did work with a single mom reached out to me, and she was in a transitionary state of life herself at the time, and she was living in a basement apartment, just her and her son. And he was like preschool age at the time, and she was just trying to figure out how to do life on her own and enjoy life. She loved her son dearly, and wanted to enjoy her time with him and wanted to feel good about herself and in her home and professionally. And so we worked like it was a big open area, comfortable and furnished for a basement, but it was just not a whole lot of definition of what should be happening in different room, in this big open room. And so we
Right.
worked in all the different areas, and stuff for her son, stuff for her, stuff for just the environment itself. I helped her arrange furniture in a different way to kind of give definition to those areas. And she
Oh,
decluttered a ton. She got rid of a ton because he was phasing out of baby. She hadn't really decluttered that stuff. She just kind of moved really quickly and just, here's all the toys. He's not really playing with all of these, but I just didn't have time to think about what is he actually doing. So we went through all his toys, went through all his clothes, went through her personal things, her clothes, her closet. And she felt great. And, a couple months later, she reached out to me. She's like, "Hey, would you mind, coming back for a refresher? Don't worry, it didn't all fall apart. I want to stay on top of it better." I'm like, "Hey, that's awesome. I'd be happy to." So she was wanting to go through clothes, and so I arrived to her home, and a woman opened the door, and I was. I hadn't met this person before, but I was just, very cheerfully like, "Oh, good morning." And she's like, "It's me." She had lost over 100 pounds.
oh no.
Yes,
Seriously?
yes. And so the reason she was inviting me to come
You
help
don't
her go,
even recognize her.
I didn't.
Oh my
I
gosh.
didn't. I'm like, either is this a
Wow.
friend? Is this a family member? And it was delightful. So we were going through her closet, not just because of like, oh, I want to figure out what I like, what I don't like legitimately she had to get rid of a bunch of stuff that just didn't serve her. She didn't need it anymore. And she said, when I got my house in order, that gave me the confidence and the motivation to get my body in order. And that was just so exciting. I loved that. And I've had other clients that have had the same experience, whether it be in with the like her with their health and weight loss, or just with professionally speaking, once they got the order within their home, then their business, they saw more growth in other areas. Yeah,
Mhm.
it frees you up. It gives you both the confidence, like I can do this, I can achieve this goal, and then you can compound it. And then also you have
Mhm.
more bandwidth. Okay, I can focus on this now. So it was fun. I loved that.
Heidi, it's really important that you said all that because it's not just organizing a thing, right? That
Mhm.
that we're getting to the bottom of this. It's
Mhm.
it's your whole universe
Mhm.
matters in
Yeah.
how you present yourself every day to the
Mhm.
world.
Mhm.
And I would imagine even your sleep gets better, your choices
Mhm.
in food and time and
Mhm.
energy, where you spend your time and energy, probably all starts to fall in line for what matters to you in finding your truest, highest self.
Mhm.
And I know you found that, right? And
Yeah.
that's why you're so
Mhm.
successful at what you do.
Mhm.
You help people
Mhm.
start that path
Mhm.
going.
Right, and I mean, I
What is
remember when you
the
and I
most
first
favorite thing?
yeah, I remember when you
Oh,
and I
sorry. Go
first
ahead.
talked. No, you're good. Like I have mentioned, and you kind of zeroed in on what I was saying, it all comes down to decisions. And so if you can make a decision
Mm,
about what am I going to do with this pad of paper? Is this still important to me? You know, little decisions, if you can start getting stronger at making little decisions, it'll give you more power, to make bigger decisions too.
and what are your favorite things about what you do?
I love just seeing people's lives get better. It's exciting, I
Like, not
love
recognizing your
yeah,
client?
yeah, yeah,
That's great.
like, I love that, I have a growth mindset myself. I like to always be, looking for ways to improve, not because I'm unhappy, just because I think that's just who we are. That's who we're created to be. I feel like, we're created by a creator, that imagined the world and it constantly building on, things. And so I think that's just innate in us. And so to get to be
Mhm,
a partner with someone who is wanting to create something good and, bloom, I love, that I get to, encourage someone to grow in a way they want to and to feel good. I'm a natural encourager, like cheerleader kind of, I guess. And so, to be able to call that a job, like that just seems like silly to
that's
me, but
great.
I enjoy it. And so if I can, help my family by, doing this as a profession, and do something that I enjoy that gives me, pleasure, because I'm naturally, task oriented. So I like the tactile. I'm going to do this and I get an end result. I love that too.
Mhm,
So I like having a
mhm,
goal and seeing it
mhm.
accomplished. So that's just something personal to me. Not everyone can identify with that. But, if you have the goal of getting organized, then you'll have the benefit of, a little personal chug, chug, chug. She's going to make sure I do it.
I love that. What
Mhm.
keeps you going every day, Heidi? Because I imagine some days, I mean, you've gotta get tired.
Oh, sure.
We all get that,
Yep.
kind of
Yeah.
feeling. What
Yeah.
keeps you going?
What keeps me going? I'm a very relational person. So what keeps me going is, the good people in my life. And, sometimes like I've heard the saying, like, you are the sum of the five people you most spend time with. And that's definitely
Ooh.
true. And so, if I think about, if I'm going through a really hard time, I know who I can reach out to, or I know who I can think about. What would such and so do? What would such and so say? And sometimes I do reach out to them, like, I'm having a hard time, what, tell me I'm not crazy, number one, if it's that, or, tell me, remind me of
Mhm,
something that I need to be remembered, that I need to know is true. And so that is what I go
mhm.
to first, is, the people, and so I really try to cultivate those relationships because they are so valuable to me. I try to be there for them as well, because it's circular, and so we're all there for each other, and I know that I can rely on them. And alternatively, I'm going to be there for them, and they'll we'll be there for each other. And so, and then, as it relates to, the drudgery, the work that I don't want to do sometimes, how do I keep going? It's like, well, what am I doing it for again? So there's different goals I
Mhm.
have that I know if I do this, it's going to get me closer to that. And so it's a combination of
Right.
surrounding myself with good people and then having a goal, something that is going to help, push me forward, even if I don't want to. And sometimes it's just giving yourself the permission. Okay, I just need a break, and then not feeling bad about it. That's true too. Like maybe it's not just
Yeah,
to do all that. I just need to sit still for a minute, just a day, and that's fine, and not beat myself up.
absolutely.
Hmm.
Good stuff. You provide the vehicle for people to find their expansiveness,
Yeah,
I would think.
that's good. Thank you.
Yeah, I like that. So you're welcome. So you probably will be coming to my house shortly, because there's some things that need to get
Okay.
done. And in the meantime, how can people find you, Heidi? And also, if someone isn't in the Georgia area,
Mhm.
do you work with people on Zoom or can you? Is that
I
even a thing?
have. Yes, that's another thing I did when I was first launching my business. I haven't done it just because I don't have as much bandwidth. Not to say I wouldn't, because if the circumstances align and that would work out, I have done it successfully. I have, when I was living in Minnesota, I had clients like in Chicago and North Carolina, and that was fun. And at the time, it was pre-Zoom, so it was just a combination of, they would send me pictures, like still shot pictures, and
Ah,
then we'd have phone conversations. But yeah, it would be much easier now. And so it was like,
oh
we could
yeah.
still talk through, oh, this is my trouble area, what do you recommend? And some people, they just need that objective idea, like that they might not have thought of themselves. But and that's another thing with working with me. I'm like an investigator. I operate by asking lots of questions. That's where my natural
Mm.
curiosity helps. Because sometimes during those questions, and sometimes I have these clients, they're like, okay, this is what I'm doing, ask me the questions. And so they're just used to me, like they're like, they know we're going to figure something out, just because that investigative conversations, they're either going to figure it out, or we're going to, by talking, come to a good solution. And so those, if there's a
Give
person who
them the
feels
light
like
bulb.
they could do it, yeah. So there's people, I could do it, I need a little extra support. And then there are folks who are like, I
Mhm.
can't, this is overwhelming, I need someone to hold my hand all the way through. So yes,
Right.
um, you could find me by my website very easily, operationorganizationbyheidi.com. And I also am on Facebook and Instagram at Heidi at Operation Organization by Heidi, and Operation Organization by Heidi at gmail.com. Those are listed on all of those sites as a direct contact as well. And my business phone number is listed on those. So yeah, pretty easy to find me, starting at any of those outlets.
Awesome, Heidi. Thank you so much for your time today. And if there was one thing you could leave the audience with,
Mhm.
like a mantra or a saying, what would that be?
Um, I guess what's currently on my mind, in this season of life for me, what's really inspiring is I want to live a life of intention. And so, what I just posted recently is the quote, something along the lines of, get into the habit of asking yourself, is this going to lead me to where I want to go? So, if you have
Mm,
whatever goal, whatever want or whatever desire you have, are the choices you're making now, you know, is that going to get you there? And, that can just be like an internal guide, and so, there's different things that we're planning and trying to do, just fun things right now in life. Like we're, trying to organize opportunities to travel. We're doing home improvement projects. And so, there's always a time of, well, I could do this or I could do that. And is, what's going to get
mhm.
me to what I really, really want. And so just being intentional, and just checking in with yourself, I would say. Mhm.
That's perfect. That is such a great way to end this. So thank you so much, Heidi. Until next time, breathe in your second wind. Thank you for listening today. I hope that something you heard made you smile, made you think, and made you feel. If these incredible stories empowered you, awakened you, or left you feeling inspired, make sure to share with a friend and write us a review on iTunes so we can continue to change lives through this content. Make sure you tag us while you're listening on our Facebook group, My Second Wind, or hit the link in the show notes to join the conversation. Until next time, go ahead and breathe in your second wind.